back with a clap. I was literally just about to say the cough's getting better, then I go and fucking cough to the side. But yeah, finally getting better. Back into training this week. It has been a very welcomed return. If anybody trains regularly and then their schedule's disrupted because of injury or sickness or anything like that, you know how devastating it can be. You tend to get a little bit more agitated about small things, and this sort of excuse me, this sort of opens up a bigger topic of conversation we're not going to go into today because I've got something else planned. But I do not understand how people don't do physical exercise every single day, because it just makes every facet of your existence so much fucking harder. Like, the small amount of irritation that I get when I don't train justifies the exercise no matter what. And I can't imagine somebody who doesn't exercise regularly day to day, the large amount of irritation they get from just the tiniest of little things. And I used to use this analogy when I was talking to PT clients, where I said to people, I was like, if you drop a cup or a plate, something that's going to break, not like a plastic one, it bounces and you just pick it up because it doesn't matter. But if you drop a cup or a plate, a glass cup or plate, glass plate, ceramic plate, sorry. If you drop a cup or a plate that's going to break and then it breaks, how do you react? Do you immediately get angry at yourself and do you say, oh, I'm a fucking idiot or I'm stupid? Or do you just look at the facts and go, oh, well, I dropped it, I'm going to clean it up and then I'll get another one if we need another one. Probably don't need another one because we probably got shitloads of plates that we don't use in the cupboard. And it was just that little disconnect and giving them a little bit of awareness on the situation of where they might be reacting to something where you don't really need to react to it, especially with anger or hatred to yourself, self-loathing, all those sorts of things. And it's just completely unnecessary. And training, putting yourself through difficult challenges and putting yourself through exertion physically can give that to you. So it perplexes me when people don't do it. It's very strange. But anyway, topic of conversation of today. I'm doing these Q&As on Instagram once a week on a Thursday. Drop in if you want to ask me a question. See if I can help. And I keep getting these questions about, oh, well, like I want to train, but I don't have the money. And first of all, I'm fucking sick of hearing it because it's completely ridiculous. It's just a bullshit victim mentality. There was a really good clip during the week that I watched of PBD doing a debate where they do the timed debates in the middle. So he sits on one side and then there's people who come in from different chairs. There's like 8 people on the other side and come in debate whatever topic of conversation they're debating. And I imagine that the topic of conversation, it was only a 40-second clip, but I imagine the topic of conversation was something along the lines of capitalism. Just based on how the conversation was going, that's my interpretation. And this guy on the right-hand side of the screen was talking about, I've applied for 477 jobs and I still can't find work. And then PBD was asking him questions about, well, what were the interviews like? What are your qualifications? What's this? What's this? What's this? And it got to a point where he kind of realized that this guy had a horrible victim mentality and nothing was ever going to change his mind. And the problem wasn't him, which everybody knows the problem fucking is him. And he goes, what if I offered you a job right now? He goes, oh, well, I'd have to do research into your company and see what you do. He goes, dude, I just offered you a job and you don't have a job. And now you're choosing to be selective when beggars can't be choosers, per se. And he just, excuse me. He just couldn't get it through his head that he was the one that was blocking all of these opportunities. And whether you did or didn't, I don't believe that he actually applied for 477 jobs because that's crazy. That's a lot of effort for somebody who would just self-sabotage and destroy the opportunity after that. Like, it kind of doesn't make sense. 40 jobs, I would be more inclined to believe. 4 jobs, I would definitely believe. Because if you're going to go through all that effort of going to 477 applications or interviews, I think it was actually interviews. So you've gone to the next stage, and then just go and fuck it up. Like that's a lot of discipline, commitment, and consistency to then just quit all of those attributes right at the very end when you need them to just follow through. But anyway, it's kind of coats the theme of what I'm talking about, and that wasn't the cold. I just swallowed that the wrong direction. Sorry. It wasn't necessarily that the jobs were the problem, the interview process was the problem, his resume was the problem. It's just him. And based on the answers, the argumentation, or the combativeness to the conversation of somebody who's speaking in a calm tone, trying to get to the root of the problem. PBD's done like a lot of sales, so he's like quite a smooth talker, and he doesn't cut people off. He listens well, all those sorts of things, good quality traits. And this guy was just quick to interrupt, quick to interject his situation. Yeah, but it's different for me. I'm a special snowflake, da-da-da-da. And you can imagine just in the interview process, you would look at this guy and you would look at his, I didn't even start the timer. You would look at his actions and the way that he's speaking to people. You're not going to hire that dude. But the issue isn't the hiring process. The issue is his attitude, obviously. And to go back to what I was talking about just beforehand, they're like, well, I want to train, but I just don't have the money. Well, that's an attitude that you've adopted. And it's the incorrect attitude. Because if you did genuinely want to train, you wouldn't let anything get in your way, especially finances. It's a crazy thing to think about for me personally, because I was in a position where I wasn't making a lot of money. I was making $300 a week online, and I just quit my job. And my gym membership wasn't cheaper than anybody else's because I was just a regular student. I had to pay like everyone else. And it was something that I wasn't willing to give up, no matter how tight my situation got, no matter how much of my savings I burnt through, no matter how much I had to scrimp and save and sell my body on the weekend. I was willing to do that. I was willing to go back into security on weekends, fuck my sleep up a little bit, get some extra cash, and then pay for jiu-jitsu, pay rent, and sort out my food. I was willing to do that. I really was. Because I didn't want to train. I needed to train. And there's a very big difference. And I've talked about him a lot in the recent weeks, but Dan Martell was telling a story yesterday where if you ask somebody, we'll use a weight loss goal, for example. What do you think the likelihood is that you achieve their goal? And let's say they want to lose 20 pounds by the end of the year. And they say, oh, maybe like 50, 60%. And then you go, okay, interesting. Why do you think that it's 50, 60%? And they start to list all these reasons and excuses and whatever. And then you say to them, well, okay, imagine a scenario where if you don't hit your goal at the end of the year, you have to give up you love, or you have to move states, or you never get to see your family again. You go up the ladder of hyperbole to go further and further and further. And you say, what if that was the case? Like, what if the extreme negative was waiting for you if you didn't achieve your goal? How much of a percentage do you think? Well, no, hang on. I worded that wrong. What percentage do you think it would be that you achieve your goal in that circumstance? And they go, oh, well, 100% I would achieve it. And so what changed? Was it the goal? Was it the implementation? Was it the person? Was it the circumstances? No, it was none of that. It was an attitude change, and it was a drive and a why. The why was now big enough to fulfill the needs for the tasks so that you would do what is necessary and required, not what you think is required. And there's a very big difference between those two things. Most people think, let's take social media for an example. I used to think when I first started social media, I used to think a Canva post with one word on it and some pictures in like a little layout with a huge long caption that was like, it was decent information. It was just the wrong medium, was appropriate to grow a following. And Reels had already come out at this time. They already existed. And I wasn't posting any of them. I was just posting little images, which I now know haven't been prioritized to go further towards non-followers, because Instagram obviously wants to compete with TikTok, and that means they have to bias short form video content. And so they scoot viewers over to that direction to make sure that people stay on their platform. So if you're posting Reels, you're more likely to go viral. If you're posting carousels, you're probably a little bit less likely. And if you're posting single images with just random colors and random images like I was and one word on it, you're definitely not going to go anywhere. And I was under the false assessment that this is what I thought was required, was that one of those a week would gain a following. And it didn't. It took me, when did I start my Instagram account? I started my Instagram account in 2018. It took me 4 years to get to 4,000 followers in 2022, just after ADCC the first time around. And then from there, it took me 3 years to get to 200 some thousand. So it was 4 years to get to 4,000. And then it was another 2 years to get to 40,000 in like December of last year. And then since December of last year, I've gone from 40 to 200. It's because I changed what I thought was necessary to what is actually necessary and required. And it's constantly reframing the way that you're looking at things, making sure that your first 3 seconds is engaging, making sure that you're delivering quality value. And even something that I'm starting to learn now, because I continue to learn about these things and I want to continually get better, make my page a fun place to hang out, learn some things, learn about me, learn about what I do, share some value, make people better, faster, experience the sport of jiu-jitsu in a simpler fashion, is that imparting storytelling is a really good way to do that. And so that's a new element that I'm trying to bring in to what I'm doing currently, because that's a great way to get people engaged. Because if I told you, let's say for instance, I tell you, I'll do an A and a B. Option A is you should really pay attention because you don't want to make mistakes that are going to cost you money and then get you frustrated. You go, okay, that's a good point, but it doesn't really stick. You're not going to remember that after you finish this episode. But you will remember the second A of the A and the B. You will remember the B. I'm about to tell you. So you really want to make sure that you pay attention, because otherwise you can make costly mistakes. Like the time that I went onto Amazon on 5 separate occasions across 5 different days because I wasn't paying proper attention, and I was buying phone cases for my brand new phone. And I just upgraded my phone from a smaller one to a bigger one. So the case that I had at the time, I couldn't actually just swap it over. And I'd been doing that for years, so I was kind of used to it. And then because I wasn't paying attention, and because I wanted to go for the cheapest option, because some things in life you want to go for the cheap option, because it really doesn't matter. If you're buying a $60 iPhone case, you're a goose. $10, $5, whatever you can get, go for the cheapest, because they're all the same. Anyway, so I opened the package on the first day. Excuse me. And the holes in the back of the case here for the camera are wrong. So I picked the wrong fucking case. And then so I went back straight onto Amazon in a rush, in a hurry, to get another case to make sure that it was the right model. I bought the second one, but then I forgot in my car I needed the little circle on the back for the magnet so that I could charge it properly. I didn't get the one with the fucking magnet circle. So I had to go back again. I go back again, and I made the same mistake as the fucking first time. I got the magnet, but I got the wrong case. And this was just infuriating. So the fourth time, I slowed right down. I made sure I looked up the case. I made sure I looked whether it had a magnet or not. And then I finally figured it out. I got it. But excuse me. But it took me 4 goes because I was prioritizing way too much speed instead of paying attention so that I could avoid costly mistakes. I ended up spending $60 on iPhone cases like a fucking goober, like I just told you not to. But do you see how the storytelling element, even though it's a little bit longer to draw out the point, it actually gives you a visual to kind of jump into where you could see me being a spastic, ordering things with my stupid big thumbs and fucking going on Amazon and going, when it comes in the mail, like getting all excited when it comes in the mail and you pull it out of the letterbox and you go, yes, my case is here. I'm finally going to be able to use my phone on my car and chuck the magnet on. And then you open it and it doesn't have a circle on the back and you're like, oh, fucking retard. And you buy the next one and it's got the circle on the back. You go to slam your phone into it and it doesn't fit because the camera hole is the wrong size. And you go, I've made the same mistake again. I'm a spastic. I need to slow down and just make sure that I don't make it so stupid. I remember it very vividly. It was quite funny. But now you guys will have some sort of color involved in that point, some sort of relatability in that point. I'm sure you guys have ordered something off Amazon. It arrived. It was the wrong thing. And then you bought another one and you made sure and you had to figure out where you went wrong in the beginning to make sure that you didn't make the same mistake again. Hopefully not like I did for the 4th time. But then you've got some sort of, attraction to that story because you could put yourself in that situation is what I'm trying to get at. And now when you remember the story, you will then remember the point. Slow down so you don't make costly mistakes. And that makes a huge difference for learning. It makes a massive difference. And so that's what I'm trying to impart in a little bit of what I'm doing. But to go back to the original point is that actually supports my original point because that's a skill set. And whether you like it or not, the amount of money that you currently earn, whether you're satisfied with that or whether you are unsatisfied with that, is directly related to the amount of value that you bring to the marketplace, whether that be your job, whether that be your business, whether that be whatever endeavor you're involved in. Excuse me. And if you don't like it and you decide to just say, I don't have the money for that or anything like that, there are genuine circumstances where people are doing it tough. They don't have the money for things, but I still always come back to the point that that's your responsibility. It's not the government's responsibility. It's not the economy's responsibility. It's not capitalism's responsibility. It really fucking isn't. And people always want to revert back to excusing themselves because of stupid things. Like, I grew up in this area. I didn't have the support when I was younger. I'm trapped by my resume. No one will give me a job, some bullshit like that. If you always revert back to thinking about, okay, how is this my responsibility and what can I actually do about it? There are hundreds of companies right now that are looking for paid intern work. They don't want to pay somebody full-time just yet because they're not kind of sure where they want to hire and whether they've got the right candidates or anything like that. But even Dan's got this intern guy that's on the team now, or he started as an intern and then he became a member of the team because he started to learn a little bit more about the content creation and creative directing side of things. And so like camera setup, light setup, scripting, video ideas, prompts, all those sorts of things. All those are nice, neat little bundled skills that are put together that makes somebody valuable to the part of a team. And you can learn them. You can develop them quite easily. It has never been easier to grasp information at your fingertips, to claim knowledge from individuals who've been doing the thing that you want to do for decades at a very high level. Even if you have no money to pay them for an upgraded level of mentorship that has more structure, the more systems, things that they don't teach online openly and freely, more contact with the individual, more like Q&A with the individual. Even if you don't have the money to afford that, most people who are really fucking good at what they do actually give away most of their shit for free. Again, it's not going to be in a structured format, and it's not going to be in the exact way that they set it out so that you guarantee results. It's going to be a piece here, a piece here, a piece here, a piece here. If you're smart enough, you can figure it all out. You really can. It's going to be the hard way, and it's going to take a lot longer. And you might miss a step, and then that will be crucial information that you miss in a different order, and so you don't get the exact place where you don't get to the exact place where you want to go. But it's all freely available. It's all out there. Unfortunately, that also drives a problem of information overload and overwhelm, because you think about, let's say you go to YouTube for day trading advice, and this guy says one thing, this guy says one thing, this guy says one thing, this guy says another thing. And then you go, well, who the fuck do I, who do I trust? My advice in that particular situation is just pick somebody who you resonate with the most, because then you're more likely to listen to them intently, and then you're more likely to apply their lessons. The reason I started working with Dan Martell is because he has this amazing video on his Instagram buying a car for one of his employees. It was a goal on his phone. I think I've told this story before, and that just goes to show how much it actually resonated with me. He said that his employee would never actually do it for himself, so he went out himself and bought him the car, because he never takes a raise, he never takes a bonus, he never takes any money away from the team. He just goes, give it back to the team. I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn, not earn. And he goes, he would never do this for himself, so I did it for him. Here you go. Gives him the keys. He starts it up. It's this big tear-jerking moment. They hug each other. It's great. It's amazing. And that was one of the first videos of how I got into his sort of sphere. And then I watched a bunch of other stuff, and I'm like, oh, I really agree with the way that this guy operates. And he talks about parenthood quite a fair bit. I'm like, you know what? I agree with that 100%. So when the opportunity came to start to work with him, then I took it, because I knew that I would align with the same values, the morals, the ethics, and the way that he operates and those sorts of things. Again, if you don't have any money, just go to the YouTube channel of the person that you resonate the most with and download as much information into your head as possible. In today's day and age, if you just become proficient enough at using CapCut, and there's a guy like me that has a podcast, that wants the podcast to fulfill a couple of roles, delivering really good information and talking to an audience and getting them to know you and, impart valuable lessons and tell stories and all that sort of stuff. And you want that podcast to be then, you want it to grow so more people can gather information from the message that you're delivering and teaching lessons and all those sorts of things. Well, then it's a really good idea to start to get proficient at using one of the editing apps to say to them, hey, I see that you've got a podcast. I'm just starting out editing. Do you mind if I clip some of the episode up for you, put captions on it, and then send it to you for free? You're going to have to work for free because you don't have a testimonial. What do they call it? I can't remember what you call it. You don't have like a bunch of testimonials to go off to be able to validate charging people for money, but you're learning a very valuable skill. You're learning a couple of very valuable skills. It's the actual like deliverables of the work itself, but it's also committing to a project, which is really important if you're going to have to charge money eventually, or if you want to charge money eventually. It's the sales conversation of getting people to trust in your work, even though it is for free at the very beginning. It's still very important that you learn how to open a conversation without being a weirdo. It's very important that you learn how to open a conversation without just glazing people off the jump, because it puts people off, because you're like, I don't know who you are. Why are you trying to do that to me? This feels fishy. Even if it's for free, I kind of don't trust you. And I get those messages all the time. That's what I was talking about last week with the Kisma and the Sugma jokes. It's so funny. But you're learning the skill of sticking to a timeline, which you should be giving them if you are offering something, even if it is for free. Just ask them to send you the episode in a Google Drive or something like that. And then say, within 48 hours, you will have 4 clips with captions, edited correctly, in high quality, that you'll be able to post on your Instagram straight away. It's a pretty good deal. 48 hours, good return time. If you can prove to them that you can stick to a schedule, you deliver exactly what you said, it's high quality, there's no editing mistakes, there's no spelling errors, there's none of that, you will prove to somebody that you can do a job for them. And they don't have to pay you at the very beginning, and they're probably not going to, because you don't have the testimonials to go off, and you haven't charged with anything, so you probably don't have the confidence for it yet. But you can use their testimony to then take that to the next person and say, it's $50. $50 for 4 clips, pretty cheap. Really cheap, actually. $12.50 a clip, that's not bad. I'm paying considerably more than that. But obviously my guys are very experienced and they deliver on time, and it's a very seamless process. And for me personally, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm not going to review any of them before they get to me. They're just going to be captioned, ready, post, go. When you get to a certain level of volume, the way that I'm doing things currently, and the way that I'm going to be ramping things up currently, in the near future rather, is that it has to be seamless. That's the most important quality. Obviously, the quality of the work has to be maintained, but the systemization of it and making sure it's extremely smooth, that's the most important part. Without an increase of input from me. That's where you get to another level in business specifically, where you can have a team that is doing most of the deliverables and everything else, and you're kind of just managing the team. That's where you start to go like this. And even Dan said it's kind of like you can brute force your way to $2 million a year, like pretty easily. You don't even have to be fantastic at what you do. It's just you can do it off your own back as well. And you can just brute force it, and it'll be a grind. It'll be super difficult and arduous, and you're going to have days where you feel like you want to quit, but you can do it. But then when you get closer to 5, that's when you start to have to think differently, because what got you here won't get you there. And if you try and brute force your way past that, you're just going to burn out. You're going to make so many mistakes. Customers are going to get pissed off, and the business is just going to go, and you don't want that, obviously, because you've got almost a $5 million a year business. You're doing really fucking well for yourself. And it's really interesting about this, because it's not always about how hard you can work. It's about the quality of the work that you can produce, without just resorting to blunt force. And I think this is why most people burn out in business, because they get to a stage where they quit their 9 to 5, but then they just go to 9 to 9, 7 days a week. And it's like, yeah, sick. I'm free. I make my own hours. And then you realize that your boss was actually, or the company that you worked for had an accounting department and a marketing department and a sales department and all these departments that you weren't involved in. And now you are the head of all those departments, and you don't really have the skills to match what you're used to. And so you got to learn sales, and I keep seeing all these I liked one too many like entrepreneurial memes, and now my Instagram's just fucking full of it. And it's like, why would I hire somebody for less than a quarter of what I make per hour if I can spend the next 6 weeks spending all of my time every single day learning a skill that I'm going to be less proficient at than the person that I hire anyway? That made me laugh so hard. And if you run a business and you listen to this, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like a tradie who is phenomenal at what they do, and then they bring on a couple of apprentices, and their work goes like this, and all the revenue and stuff and all the quoting and everything goes like this. But then they try and be the accountant and the bookkeeper and the invoice person, and then they try and do all that stuff. And they're phenomenal at what they do in terms of the physical side of things, but they're nowhere near being competent in terms of an accountant or a bookkeeper. So it takes them 8 hours longer to do what somebody could do in far less time, for more money, obviously, because you're doing it yourself, you're doing it for free, but at a higher proficiency, a higher efficiency, and you would have all this time back that you could start to deploy into other resources or other areas that you're actually good at, and then you could take the business further. It's crazy to think about. Like, there are people that run $50 million, $100 million companies, and they still like run all their own emails. And you're like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you checking your own email? There was a really cool story from Dan. You can tell I've been watching all of his fucking videos, but there was a really cool story from Dan where he's talking about his mate runs a big roofing company or something like that. And he got invited to this summit thing with Richard Branson. And he's like, dude, Richard Branson, Dan said to the guy that he's friends with, he goes, dude, Richard Branson's like my hero. He goes, well, I got a +1. Do you want to come? He's like, fuck yeah, 100%. And he goes, oh, I didn't think you'd be able to based on all the stuff that you do. And he goes, dude, I've got like an EA and I've got people that run the deliverables, and I really only have to do X amount of work on this specific business per week, because I've systemized and I've brought back all my time and I've done all these things. And he goes, oh, okay, well, let's go. So they went, and his mate was freaking out because he wasn't there physically, and there was fires popping up everywhere, and he's on the phone every 20 minutes. And they were sitting there next to Richard Branson. He was the coolest, calmest, most collected guy in the entire room, worth the most by a country mile. I think he's invested in like 400 companies or something absolutely ridiculous. And obviously he's got Virgin and then Virgin Enterprises, and that spreads out into all these different things. And he was the least stressed guy in the entire room. And they were, I think it was a snow trip. They were going up the ski lift. And Dan was sitting next to the executive assistant of Richard Branson. And they were sitting there and they were just talking. And he goes, what is your like role, basically? And she goes, I am the brick wall between Richard's extremely valuable attention and all of the people trying to get it. And it clicked for him straight away. He's like, I get it. Because you're going to get emails of people that want to do collabs and sponsored posts and all this rubbish. And it does drain your attention. It drains your energy and it drains your attention to focus on the things that you really need to focus on. And if you're looking at it and if you haven't properly set your direction and your blinders on, Hormozy calls it the woman in the red dress. And every time you go up another level, so if you make $100,000 a year, a $10,000 opportunity sounds pretty good. And it doesn't sound as good when you make $500,000 a year. But then the $50,000 opportunity sounds pretty good. It doesn't sound as good when you get to $1 million a year, but then the $100,000 opportunity sounds pretty good. And the woman in the red dress never goes away. She just keeps coming up as you climb up as well. So when you're making $10 million a year and there's $1 million opportunity that comes across the table, you become quite interested in that because it's an extra $1 million. It's 10% of what you're doing. And you're like, I could do so much with the money, blah, 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 blah. But you don't realize that it's a distraction and it's going to stop you from pushing all your energy, effort, and attention into the $10 million a year thing that you're already doing, which you could double quite easily by just continuing to do what you're doing, versus getting distracted on little opportunities and then taking your company from 10 back down to 8, earning the $1 million opportunity back up to 9. You see how that works? Versus all your energy, all your attention, all your focus on the $10 million thing, change some systems, hire some key people, make some process a little bit better, and then you could take that from 10 to 20 quite easily in 12 months. And I know that sounds crazy to think about. You're like, how the fuck would you do 10 to 20 in 12 months? It happens all the time. All the fucking time. If the business that gets acquired in like VC or private equity is doing $3 million a year, but they don't have like the right hiring structure, or the CEO is kind of like the bottleneck because they want a part in everything and they want to make sure they feel validated for owning the company and all that sort of stuff. As soon as they buy it and then they remove it and then they put in a person that's already done 20 a year in another company, that $3 million will go to 9 within like 3 months, 6 months, something of that. Like it triples straight away because they're either like not charging enough, or they don't have the right leadership, or one department is actually letting down the whole company. It's like the handbrake of the entire thing. And as soon as they take the handbrake off, everything just starts to work brilliantly. You'd be surprised at how often it happens. And that's why these guys bet big sums of money on these different projects, because they realize that it's the highest ROI gain that you could possibly get for your money. Like you're not putting $2 million into the stock market and taking 50 out in 2 years. You're just not doing that. But you could buy a company for $2 million, install a guy that knows exactly what to do, when to do it, why to do it, and exactly how to do it based on the history that he's already done it with 10 and 15 different other projects. And he could take that thing to $50 million easily within 2 years, for sure. It just takes the right person with the right attitude and the right strategy. Sorry. Like some of these AI companies are growing fucking ridiculously quick. Some of these tech companies are going crazy. And it just takes the right leadership system, the right people in the right places, and then it just... And to go back to the original point of what we're talking about, these are all skill sets. They're all skill sets that you can learn. If you wanted to get into venture capital, I think you have to go through some sort of tertiary education degree, but you've got more than enough information on the internet to be able to learn deal structures and acquiring money and getting investors involved and all that sort of stuff. You could become an individual that gets so good at sales by learning as much as you can on the one subject that you could start to broker deals between companies and investors. That could be your job, where you start to just put those two things together. You do it for like a 1% fee or a 2% fee. I don't even know how it works because I'm not in that industry. But I know that I could learn how it would work, and I could go into that industry and do really well because I have the mindset that it's not, I can't do it. It's, I can't do it yet, or I haven't figured it out yet. I know we spoke about that last week, but it's so important to recognize. And so when people come to me with these excuses, I don't have the money, it's really fucking annoying to listen to, because I believe in you more than you believe in you, which is kind of fucked up. Like, you have to believe in yourself more than anybody will believe in you, especially at the very beginning. That's the most important time to have almost a delusional belief that it's all going to work out. It really is. I had a delusional belief for a very, very long time. There was a few. I always knew that I was going to go into business because I worked many jobs. I got fired from 90% of them, basically. And instead of me blaming the job market, instead of me blaming bosses or employees or other staff members that I didn't get along with that forced me into different actions, that's all bullshit. I reflected, looked internally, and I went, maybe I'm not meant to work for somebody. Maybe I don't have the specific personality type that's meant to be in a job. And I started to think about it really honestly. And I went, okay, maybe I should figure out a way of doing this whole thing myself, generating my own money. And then within a matter of months, I was doing that because I went on YouTube. I downloaded as many videos into my head as humanly possible. Unfortunately, I didn't go for the right methodology right at the very beginning. I went into get rich quick schemes and so on and so forth. But I eventually ended up selling a product to a stranger on the internet for money. And as soon as you break that mold, you're in and you're never going out. You're just never going out. That's why I think it's so important to change the attitude of I don't have the money to I don't have the money yet. And just think about the easiest thing that you could possibly do. I said it on my story this morning. Excuse me. How many people need their lawns mowed? Hundreds. In your street, depending on the density of the population in your area, hundreds. And do they need it mowed once and then they're done? Or is it a bi-monthly or monthly thing? It's a bi-monthly or a monthly thing, depending on what season you're in. If you're in summer in Australia and it's raining, the grass grows crazily. So maybe it's even a weekly thing that the guys come around and make sure it's all trimmed, depending on how you want your lawn to look. Some people don't care, but there's going to be a few people that do. And if you ask 100 people, you're likely to probably find 5 to 10 of them that are willing to give you money at a lower rate than what everybody else would be charging, because you don't have the experience yet. You don't have the testimony yet to be able to validate and justify a higher price. But you do that for a couple of weeks, you get some good reviews from some happy customers, and then you raise your prices. And then all of a sudden, you have a fucking landscaping company and you're too busy to do the work, so that you have to hire somebody else to do it for you. And then you become the owner instead of the operator. And then you've got to build the skill of managing people, making sure they show up on time, making sure their work is quality, giving them standard operating procedures so that they go through a checklist every single time that they get to a job. Let's knock on the door, introduce yourself. Hey, just going to do the lawns. If you need anything, let me know. If there was anything you'd like me to pay special attention to, please tell me now, because otherwise I'll miss it and then I'll just end up packing up and then it'll be gone. You go the extra mile for somebody like that, and then they go, wow, this guy's like really invested in giving me a fucking fantastic service. Let me tell this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, because it's such a good rate and it's such a good service, then you get 5 more customers out of seemingly thin air. It's how it works at the very beginning. But you got to be willing to eat shit first. You got to be willing to feel cringy. You got to be willing to get embarrassed. You got to be willing to accept rejection. And that's what people don't want to do, because they're fucking terrified of it, because they somehow identify with it when it happens to them. If you could break the mold of letting fear and embarrassment and cringe become your identity when you feel it, because it isn't your identity, it's just an experience that you have just like any other feeling. It's crazy that we do this with negative emotions and we don't ever do it with positive emotions. Like, you feel gratitude once and then you don't identify as being the gratitude guy. Maybe you do and you become that dude on Instagram that's a fucking weirdo, but this is beside the point. You don't feel a ton of excitement and then identify with being the excited person, but you feel anxiety twice and you go, well, I'm a fucking anxious wreck, blah, blah, blah. Why do we do that? It's so weird. Anyway, that's what you have to get used to. You got to get with it. It's just part of it. I remember, excuse me. I remember when I was doing cold calls for the business mentorship group that I was a part of at the very beginning of my PT career. I didn't really have any business doing calls for that place. It's just that I was one of the most bought in students. So they thought that I would be a really good person to, showcase what was possible with the business mentorship. But when I was trying to apply their lessons in the gym setting, I was just fucking it up so badly, because I didn't have the resume of all the people that I'd trained and gotten amazing results just yet, because I only just started. And I'd signed a couple clients and I'd used their method and I'd put together their system and their structure. And I only had I only had like 3 or 4 people that I was training regularly. Excuse me. And so I didn't really have the confidence, because I didn't have the validation. I didn't have the proof to uphold a confident tone. And so when metaphorically push got to shove on the phones, I would kind of fold a little bit, because I would let them take control of the conversation and it would just go a bad way. And I wouldn't call people out on anything, because I didn't feel like I had the authority to do so because I was ringing a bunch of gym owners. And I thought gym owners were rich people. And most of the time they're not. I learnt that much later on. By the time they do the maintenance and the upkeep and the leasing and all that sort of stuff, they don't really take home all that much. If their business model is really good, they can increase their profitability. And if they start selling supplements and they start doing all this other stuff, yes, then they take home a lot of money. But most of the time, if they're just following a franchisor blueprint, they're not really doing that well. But anyway, I didn't have the confidence to be able to back up the words that I was saying. And so I ran into a lot of, fuck you, don't call me again, blah, blah, blah. But it was actually really important and really impactful because I learned how to continue to do something even when I didn't want to do it, even when I knew that the close rate, excuse me, for many different reasons was going to be absolutely horrible. And it was commission based. And because I was so shit at it, because I hadn't developed the skills yet, I wasn't making any commission. So I wasn't getting rewarded for hours and hours and hours and hours of work. But that was such a blessing in disguise because it taught me grit. It taught me to keep going even when you don't want to do it. I would scroll through the list of all the numbers of all the leads that they'd managed to get through Facebook ads and all that sort of stuff. And I would just wait. This is how I delayed the action. I would just wait until I found a name that I liked, hoping that would somehow generate some rapport on the conversation, or maybe even a phone number that had double digits in it that I liked. Excuse me. Or things like that, just stupid things like that, instead of just ringing the next person, then ringing the next person, then ringing the next person. I thought that was a better method because obviously the method that I was using wasn't working, and I blamed it on just following the list instead of actually getting better at what I needed to do. And had I studied a little bit more, had I learnt a little bit more information, and had I put time into developing, tonality and cadence and empathy for their situation and being very problem aware and then solution oriented so you could present them with a possible solution, not even a guaranteed solution, because I don't even know if what I'm offering you is good for you until I get to know you. And the only way I can get to know you is not appearing salesy or creepy, just having a conversation with a friend. And there are certain ways to do that, certain tactics to do that. But again, really, really valuable because you just got to accept that there's going to be a certain amount of failure, and it's going to be a lot at the very beginning, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to eat it. I think that's the thing that stops most people. They're not willing to look stupid because then they have to tear down this identity that they have inside their head that, well, I'm really smart. And it's actually really a curse if you uphold that identity in your head. Two reasons. Well, if I'm so smart, well then I don't want to risk appearing not smart so that I'm not going to challenge myself in a domain that I don't feel comfortable in. That's a big limiting factor to your growth. People in jiu-jitsu do it all the time, where they don't want to appear worse than their current status within the gym that only they're keeping tabs on, so it really doesn't matter. And so they don't go into challenging situations where they may or may not get submitted or may not get swept or scored on. Not that you get scored on in the gym, but in their mind, getting scored on is death. So they narrow their selection of techniques and their movement so much that they stop learning, stop growing, stop developing, and ironically stay in the exact same place just because they want to uphold this narrative identity inside their head that literally no one fucking cares about except them. And then the second approach that really hurts people that adopt this I'm smart mentality is that they look at other people and they go, well, I'm smarter than them. Why haven't I figured it out? And that buries them mentally. That's a really hard thing to overcome. And it's a very dangerous trap. It's a very dangerous trap. Because if you believe yourself to be intellectually superior and you haven't attained a goal, that you see somebody who you believe to be intellectually inferior to you, well, then that's going to fucking keep you up at night. Because you're like, well, if he's so fucking stupid and he figured it out, why haven't I figured it out yet? And then it becomes this whole identity crisis instead of just recognizing that they have skills that you don't, because they didn't, excuse me, they didn't lie to themselves and tell themselves that they were smarter than they were. They just got busy doing shit. And because they just got busy doing shit, they got the reps in. And because they got the reps in, they learned. And then they started to get better reps in. And the better your reps get, the faster you progress, the less mistakes you make, the more you move forwards. And then that's literally the secret. Your first set of reps are going to suck so bad. They are. Just get used to it. Your second rung of reps are going to be slightly better because you now have the experience of sucking. And if you're actually intelligent, you'll analyze what happened in your first set of reps and you'll go, oh, I think that this can be better. I think that this could be better. Let me test that theory. And you might not have the experience to be able to look at the situation and go, that's exactly what I need to focus on. You might be focusing on the wrong thing. Let's say in content production, you missed the fact that the first 3 seconds are the most important to gain their attention. So you kind of waffle for the first 3 seconds, and then your body of the video is really good, and then your ending kind of waffles off. You think the ending was the thing that needs more work. So you negate the important part. So you do better reps, but it's in the wrong direction. But then you get to learn that lesson because then you post the next fleet of videos, the next reps, and they still tank. And you analyze it again. You go, okay, it wasn't the body. It wasn't the end. It must be the start. Then you go and analyze how to make a good start of a video, how to perform a hook so that people start to pay attention and listen to you. And then your videos start to do well. And you go, holy fuck, I figured it out. And that starts the process of you getting really excited because you've taught yourself how to do it and you've built the skill of how to do it. And if we go back to the original topic of the conversation, the better you get at it and the more reps you do at it, the more you're going to be validated in terms of teaching other people in how to do it to earn money, which is a crazy idea, but that's the way that it's done because people don't want to do it the way that you just did it. They don't want to spend 5 years figuring it out. They don't want to do what I did. They don't want to spend 4 years trying to get to 4,000 followers, which is a really slow rate of progression, I do that now in a couple of days. Like I've done more than 4,000 followers in a day at some point when my account was just going. I don't know what handbrake got taken off. No, I do know what handbrake got taken off. I started posting twice a day, every day, and I haven't missed a day. That's what happened. Where was I going with that? But they don't want to do it the way that you did it. They don't want to go through the same mistakes. They don't want to go through the same heartache. They don't want to go through the same bullshit. And so they're willing to pay you for your experience. So now you've got 2 ways of doing it. You've got 2 ways of making more money. You can go out and offer a service and take it off the hands of the people that don't want to be doing it for a significantly lower price than they otherwise would pay because you're going to tell them, hey, I'm just starting out. I don't have the experience just yet. I'm trying to build this into something great. I know that it can be great. I would really, really appreciate if you just give me a little bit of leeway as I get better. You will keep your rate as I get better. I just need the reps in and I just need to get practice. And so if you will allow me to do that, I will lock in your rate and I'll make sure that you never pay more than this. And people will be happy to do that. That way, yeah, okay, maybe you're charging $25 for a $75 lawn service. but you're getting way more value than you are the money. Way more value, because you're learning all of these little compartmentalized skills that are going to enable you to become the highest charging lawn care service in a matter of years, in a matter of a couple of years, because then you will have a massive body of reviews, test, proof, experience to be able to offer that person, especially when they come into the objection sort of thing where they're like, oh, well, why are you $50 more than the next guy? When you're like, well, because I have an amazing track record, excuse me, of happy, satisfied customers. I've got over 500 Google reviews to prove to you that I can do what I do. I say that I'm going to show up at this time. I show up at this time. I say I'm going to do this work. I do this work. I offer you a guarantee that everything that is agreed upon gets done. That's pretty good. In my eyes, that justifies a higher price. It's the certainty. It's not just that you do the work. It's the certainty that you rock up at this time. I used to pay a guy to do my lawns in my old house. He was the guy who did the lawns of the guy next to me. That's how I met him. Got his business card. Didn't even have a business name on it. It was some fucking church card. The guy was lovely, by the way, but he was so fucking unreliable and so inconsistent. I would message him and I would say, are you sweet to do Thursday next week? I'll give him ample time. He'd message me like 2 or 3 days later. Yep, no worries. See you Thursday next week. Be there around 2:30. It would come to like 3:30, still hasn't rocked up. And then he'd text me like, oh, sorry, I can't come today. Can we do next week? And I had been waiting there to make sure that my dog was inside the house so he didn't hump the fucking lawn guy. Because he would never get aggressive. He'd never bite people or anything like that, but he'd hump you. He'd grease your leg up for sure. Kevin is a fucking absolute menace of a dog. But I would have happily paid somebody else instead of the $75 that I was paying to old mate. I would have happily paid somebody else $100 if they showed up on time, every time, and did an immaculate job, performed extremely well. Excuse me. I can justify paying that much because it's an increased level of service. It doesn't sound like much. It's still like a relatively similar product. Like the end result is relatively similar, but how it gets facilitated is very important, especially to people who value their time. Most importantly, to people who value their time. And they're the people you want to go after. You don't want to go after, sorry. You don't want to go after cheapskates and fucking tight asses and people who don't value their time. If you go to a place and to a house, let's say, and you perform a service and the people stand out the front fucking watching you doing what you're doing, you're going to have a hard time getting that invoice paid, brother. They're not the people you want to fucking work for. They're not. They're fucking time wasters. There is nothing in my entire body that would stop me from doing the work that I needed to do that day to watch somebody do work on the house that I live in. Not a fucking chance on earth, because I value my time and I know me standing there watching somebody do a job on the house is costing me a shitload of money, because I could be focusing on what I do the best, getting people fucking better at jiu-jitsu in a much faster period of time than they otherwise could if they didn't fucking get coaching from me. And I know that producing content is also, or not producing content in that idea, to get people into my world so that I can fucking help them, because I know that what I do is extremely valuable. Get people aware of what I do. Not doing that and watching somebody do a job is also wasting a fucking shitload of my time and money. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And so you got to be careful of those people. You got to be careful of a bunch of different types of people. I'm not going to go through all of them because it's just fucking way too many people you need to worry about. But the whole like, I don't have money to do X, Y, Z is fucking bullshit. Stop saying it, please. If you catch yourself saying that, you know that you can make more. It's literally as easy even if you want to go down the like lowest skill path, you can literally do surveys online. They pay you like $50 to do a survey. Do 4 of those a month. There's your fucking jiu-jitsu membership. I don't recommend that you do that because you're not building a skill. Obviously, you're just fucking clicking buttons on a computer. But I hate that excuse so much because it's never been easier to make money ever in the history of the world. And if you don't have a physical skill, build a digital skill. Learn how to write copy for people. People don't want to write their own fucking emails. I don't want to write my own emails. You know how long it took me to write fucking a 30-day email sequence with like stories and lessons and fucking call to actions? It took me forever. It was fucked. And I could have spent that time doing this or coaching or making YouTube videos or any of that, which would have been much more beneficial. Excuse me. Than sitting there writing fucking emails. I would have happily paid someone else to do it. Happily paid someone else to do it. But I didn't look for somebody and I did the whole entrepreneurial thing. Like, I can do this. I can figure it out. And I did actually need to do it to learn how to do it, to teach myself how to do it so I can teach other people how to do it at a later date. Which is what I'm going to start doing as a new venture. So many people have been asking me, how do you build a content engine? And how do you build a community as a business? And how do you nurture that and make sure that people stay and do all these sorts of things? And so now I've decided that I'm just going to start teaching people how to do it. Sorry, excuse me. I'm getting there. I really am. I think I'm talking way too much and it agitates my throat and it gets worse as it goes on. In the mornings, it's actually quite good. At nighttime, I'm still a little bit how's it going, but I'm getting there. I'm getting better. But yeah, I've decided that I'm just going to start teaching people how to fucking run a business because I've realized that most people don't know the stuff that I know and they're just running under false assumptions and they make a fuckload of mistakes. They lose a shit ton of motivation and then they don't have that drive and that why to carry them through. And then they just go, and they otherwise would have had a really fucking solid business and some amazing value to deliver to people based off the experience that they've been through in their life. But then they reach all these hurdles that they feel like they can't overcome, and then they just stop doing it. And that's sad. It saddens me. I can't imagine in the world how many people have had just such phenomenal ideas. You look at Simon Squibb and all the people he talks to, and he's like, do you have a dream? And they're like, yeah, I want to start a coffee shop, but I don't have the fucking money for it. It's like, yeah, dude, you got to get in. You got to get you got to get invested to building your own dream and doing whatever the fuck it takes. And people just see these hurdles in front of themselves and they think, oh, well, you know, like I got to save 10 grand, but then my expenses are already exceeding my ability to blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, get a fucking side hustle after your job that you do from 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. every night. And then just work on that until it replaces your income. And then when it replaces your income, then you're only working 3 hours a day. And if you're only working 3 hours a day, you've got all this other time to just accelerate. Then you can build so much more money so much faster and then give yourself the investment for the fucking coffee shop that you want to make. It's like you just got to take the responsibility and the power into your own hands and really fucking want to do it. And even in the environment where you pay for mentorship, it's the exact same thing. I could set up the most amazing program that you've ever seen in your entire life, but if you don't fucking use it, it's useless. Like, I've signed up to courses before, watched the first 2 lessons, never watched anything ever again. And I said, that course was shit. No, I was shit. I should have been pointing the finger at me because I only watched the first 2 lessons. How the fuck am I going to get anything out of watching the first 2 lessons? I probably watched the first 2 lessons while I was eating food, not paying attention. And then I went, this sucks. And then I never went back to it. No, the course isn't shit. You're shit, dickhead. You, as in like me, not you. And then I changed my tune and I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to invest in things, I really have to pay attention. I'm going to take notes. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to implement it. I'm going to apply it and I'm going to iterate it when it goes wrong. And then I'm going to go again. And then the first time I did that, I got really fucking good results I remember the first time I signed up to a business mentorship that fucking scared me was with this guy, Sam. I've talked about him a fair few times. And he posted this story once on his Instagram. And he was part of a previous mentorship that I was in that was like a little cohort sort of thing. And he was helping out. He was doing some mentorship stuff. And he decided to branch off and do his own thing and leave that group. And the guy who was running the group ended up leaving that and doing podcasts anyway. So it's kind of like a perfect scenario where he was kind of not needed to be involved anymore because the other guy was going away. Anyway, Sam went off and did his own thing. And he posted a story about this kid one day who was also in the mentorship, who I knew. Did I know him prior to that? No, I met him in the mentorship. His name's Ethan. And he made $7,000 in a week. And that broke my fucking brain. And it really pissed me off that I couldn't figure out how the fuck he did it. Because I'm like, hang on. $100 a week. I was charging $100 a week for online coaching, mind you. $100 a week. That's 70 sales. And then I was trying to break that down in my fucking head. For you to get 70 sales, you would need to have like 500 appointments, 500 calls to get the close rate to match the number. And I was like, 500 calls. And that's people on calls, not the people that you like got hung up on or they told you to fuck off or anything like that. They're the ones that went all the way through. And I knew some of the statistics from doing sales previously in the previous job. And I was like, he must have done like 2,000 phone calls in a week. That's not even fucking possible. It broke my brain so fucking hard that I had to message Sam and I'll be like, all right, how'd you do it? What the fuck's the go with this? And he goes, do you want me to show you how to do it? And I was like, yes, I want you to show me how to fucking do it. Yes. It's been keeping me up for 3 days. And he goes, all right, it's $1,500 a month for 6 months. And I was like, oh, it's slightly out of my range currently. I had a investment portfolio at the time. I had like $3,000 in an investment account. And I said to him, I'll pay 2 months up front because then I could just lock it in. And I knew that I would do the work to be able to earn the money on the back end to be able to pay for the rest of it. And he goes, I don't do it like that. Don't worry about that. Just pay for the first month up front and then we'll just do it how we normally do it. And I was like, okay, sweet. Excuse me. 2 days before that invoice was due, that investment account got frozen. The company went under and my investments no longer existed. The most brutal part about that was I could see it on my account. I couldn't touch it. I was fucking devastated. You know what I did? I sold some shit. I'm not joking. I went on fucking Facebook Marketplace. I sold some old turntables I had from when I was a DJ. I sold a bike that I wasn't using anymore. And I found the $1,500 in my house. I'm not even fucking kidding. I went on Facebook Marketplace. I put some shit up online. I priced it very fairly. And I fucking sold all of it. Got the cash. Took it to the bank. Inserted it into my account. I paid the invoice a day early. Then I learnt Sam's secret sausage making method. I didn't have to worry about money ever again. It's a fucking true story. I'm not joking. He told me how to make the $7,000 in the week. 2 weeks later, I fucking did it. Not kidding. 2 weeks later. Because I realized he was selling packages, not fucking weekly. It pissed me off so much when he told me. He's like, dude, what are you doing charging weekly, you fucking retard? He goes, charge him up front for a fucking 12-week program. Charge him $2,000. It's a better deal than what you're charging. Sorry. It's a better deal than what you're charging currently because they're going to get more value out of it because you're going to have to supply more value to justify the price. And I was like, you motherfucker. So really all he did was charge, like, he made 3 sales that week and then my brain was unbroken because I recognized how the sausage was made. But yeah, legitimately, since then, I learned all the principles and all the things that I need to know to be able to put myself in a position to utilize social media to make money over the internet, just like magic. And I've been doing it ever since. That was all it took. Took a little bit of grit, took a little bit of tenacity, took deciding that I wanted to fucking do it and not letting anything get in the way. Even when I thought I wasn't going to be able to do it. I was this close to messaging him and telling him, look, man, I was going to pay for this with some investment stuff that I had, which is kind of a stupid idea anyway. You should never touch investments. But it got frozen and I'm not going to be able to do it and blah, blah, blah. Really sad about it, blah, blah. No. That story that he posted with old mate, made $7,000 a week, pissed me the fuck off that much that I was like, I'm selling all my shit. And I did. And that was it. And that's all she wrote. So you fucking can do it. You can overcome your excuses. You can drop your excuses in the fucking bin and get rid of them and set that fucking cunt on fire, because I know you can do it, because I did it. And I'm a fucking moron most of the time. I'm really good at puzzles. Some autistic. But I'm just a normal dude. I just decided I wanted to do something, took some fucking action, and then it worked. What a surprise. And if I can do it, you can do it. So fuck your excuses. I'm sick of hearing them. I really am, because they're such bullshit. Anyway, I'm going to leave you on that. It is always a pleasure, never a chore. See you in the next one. I'm off to the dentist. I'm going to get yelled at for my lack of flossing ability. Anyway, see you.